Ever since Avengers Endgame made us laugh, cry, and cheer with its spectacular finale, one question remained on our minds. When the heck will Marvel release their Phase 4 schedule? Although our Marvel overlords have remained tight-lipped, we're pretty confident we can piece some things together, so today's video is all about what the Marvel timeline will look like for Phase 4 of the MCU. On paper, it makes sense why Marvel has kept quieter than an invisible Drax in regards to Phase 4. If they release their entire schedule like they've done in the past, it kinda spoils things, like the totally shocking, completely unpredictable twist that we saw everyone come back to life in Endgame. We've all been obsessed with knowing what direction Marvel goes in now that their Infinity Saga is complete. Well, we actually know quite a lot because, although the top brass remains tight-lipped, casting, production notes, and insider information doesn't lie. So before we take a deep dive into speculation, let's take a look at what we know for sure about Marvel's upcoming slate. As for now, Marvel has 8 movie release dates confirmed for the future, 2 in 2020, and then 3 both in 2021 and 2022. And we bet an Infinity Stone we know both of these 2020 films. First is the Black Widow solo movie, which, given how far it is in production, seems like a prime candidate for the first 2020 spot. Since a whole movie watching Nat's dead body collect dust at the bottom of Vormir Cliff doesn't sound like something Marvel will do, signs point to this being a prequel movie, with reports of it taking place in the early 2000s before her first Iron Man 2 introduction. Now you might think to yourself, hey, isn't it a little odd that Phase 4 of the MCU starts off with a prequel for a dead character? How will that progress the story? Well, good point, random internet person. That's an excellent question. But hold that thought, because the other movie coming out in 2020 is also probably a prequel of sorts. We've seen a lot of forward momentum lately on the casting process for The Eternals, with Angelina Jolie and Game of Thrones' Richard Madden all rumored to be circling roles for the film. Essentially, the Eternals are a practically immortal alien species who've been around for quite some time. Expect the movie to explore the MCU's ancient past, so 2020's really pushing the prequel angle. But because everyone is more obsessed with what's coming next, the big question is, how do these two films set up the remainder of Phase 4, especially when they're set in the past? Well, the most important thing to note is that in Phase 4, Marvel is supposedly moving away from huge overarching stories and focusing more on mini-arcs, with Earth-bound adventures being held separate from the cosmic side of things, which makes sense given that the studio is juggling about 1 billion characters at the moment. This means that Black Widow and the Eternals will likely lay some groundwork for both an Earth big bad and a cosmic big bad to be developed in future movies, which is definitely a smart move. But what about 2021? Marvel has release dates secured for February, May, and November, and we're inclined to give Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2, and the new hero Shang-Chi those 3 spots. Because the original Doctor Strange released in the back half of the year 2016 and was a success, we see no reason for Marvel to change that strategy, so expect November 2021 to get a whole lot more strange. In theory, it makes sense to have Black Panther 2 in February, as the original was also released in that month, and went on to smash box office records, garner critical acclaim, and make Wakanda forever an everyday phrase. But really, it's more likely Marvel will give Black Panther 2 the coveted May spot, since it's now a proven property that has absolutely nothing to fear. The only other big release scheduled for May is the other superhero movie, Fast and the Furious 9, but without Dwayne Johnson around ripping machine guns off drones and guiding missiles with his feet, is that even worth watching? Anyway, February is a less competitive month that Marvel normally likes to use to introduce new characters, so expect Shang-Chi, the MCU's first leading Asian American superhero, to land here. That leaves 3 open spots in February, May, and July in 2022, and this is actually quite interesting. Having the May and July dates so close together implies that either Marvel will soon secure a November 2022 release date, pumping up their releases to 4 films a year, or we have a situation similar to this year, where the May date is being reserved for an Avengers movie, and the July date is the final cool-off film of Phase 4, much like Spider-Man Far From Home is the smaller film to end Phase 3, and Ant-Man was the smaller film to end Phase 2. The only thing we know for certain is that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is definitely happening now with James Gunn back at the helm, but he's got to finish writing and directing that other group of outcast mid-fit comic book anti-heroes first. Of course, we're talking about Suicide Squad 2. Some sources say the Guardians of the Galaxy may return as early as 2021, but that sounds like too tight of a turnaround, so we're marking either February or May 2022 as the most likely option to see the Guardians continue their journey with their new pal Thick Thor. Speaking of the hunk turned chunk, Thor is a really big question mark going forward. Captain America may have grown pruny, and Iron Man is clearly not in the picture anymore. So many tears. But the other main Avenger ended Endgame with a broad new beginning, and decided to kick it with the Guardians for a while, becoming the Asgardians of the Galaxy. There are rumblings that Chris Hemsworth has extended his contract with Marvel to include Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Thor 4, which, given his box office track record outside of Marvel movies and how much his franchise was reinvigorated with Thor Ragnarok, it was probably a logical decision on Hemsworth's part. But we're pretty sure a Thor 4 wouldn't happen until Phase 5 anyway. So imagine a nice juicy subplot for the God of Thunder Thighs in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 that sets him up for his next wave of adventures. Rumor has it he'll meet Beta Ray Bill in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and if that doesn't sound like laying the groundwork for another buddy space comedy in the eventual Thor 4, we don't know what does. So we may not know for sure what those remaining two 2022 release dates are, or if Marvel's going to shift them or add some more. Marvel reportedly has a bunch of other films in development, including Captain Marvel 2, Ant-Man 3, New Avengers, Spider-Man 3, Nova, and Young Avengers. They're all rumored to be in development, and even if that's not all true, at least a few of those movies could logically fill those remaining slots in their schedule. It all just depends on what story they're trying to tell. But before we get into that, we have to talk about the future streaming giant Disney+. A bunch of shows starring heroes not popular enough for solo movies are in development, and Kevin Feige has stressed that they're going to be big-budgeted miniseries that play out just like movies and are vital to the MCU. You know, it's basically everything we wanted with The Defenders on Netflix and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., except now Marvel isn't lying when they say it's all connected. It's amazing all the miniseries we seem to be getting on Disney Plus in the near future, and we hope the leaked plot points turn out to be true because they sound just downright rad. Loki traveling through time influencing historical events? Sign us up. Hawkeye training Kate Bishop to take over his mantle? Finally! Falcon and Winter Soldier hunting down a rogue government-sanctioned Captain America? Sure, why not? Wanda rebuilding Vision, who gets possessed by a dark force and then living in a suburban neighborhood where everyone frowns upon Wanda's robosexuality? That sounds insane! So without a doubt, Phase 4 is going to be jam-packed with material, but now the bigger question is, what story is it going to tell? Based on some rumors and leaks, because we all know those always come true, the next MCU big bad may be Norman Osborn, the genius, ruthless businessman, and one of Marvel's comics' greatest enemies. Remember how Avengers Tower was sold in Spider-Man Homecoming? Well, supposedly, by the time Spider-Man Far From Home is over, we'll discover that Norman Osborn is the buyer and plans to convert the building into the infamous Oscorp. It's possible that Osborn will assemble his own team of villains, and it could include one of the best Marvel villains, Dr. Doom. We could actually get a version of the Dark Avengers in Phase 4, something that of course will lead to a clash with the Earth-based heroes, who are Spider-Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, and some others. All of this could set up a new Avengers movie. On the space side of things, it's no secret that going cosmic has been a part of the Marvel's plans for quite some time now, and Phase 4 is finally being set up to give us a more universe-protecting team of Avengers. You've got Captain Marvel, you've got the Guardians of the Galaxy, you've got the upcoming Eternals, and you have the rumored hero Nova eventually being introduced. Pair that with Thor and possibly Beta Ray Bill, and you got a pretty wild-looking cosmic team of Avengers. Now, instead of stuffing every single character into one movie, we could have two teams operating in the galaxy. It gives every character a bit more breathing room, and has them only all unite together for the really big threats. The biggest question mark for the future of the MCU is when a certain fantastical family and a Canadian cigar-chomping, claws-wielding mutant are going to make their long-awaited arrival in the MCU. Yes, we all want to see the Fantastic Four finally be given a worthwhile adaptation, and we desperately want to see Wolverine and the other mutants interact with our favorite heroes. We feel bad for whatever writer has to find a way to fit them into this universe, since you can't really just say mutants were here all along, they were just hiding behind that big tree over there. So maybe the best way to incorporate the Fantastic Four and the X-Men will be explained in Spider-Man Far From Home. Everyone and their grandmother thinks Mysterio is lying about being a hero, but what if he's actually telling the truth about being from a parallel universe? That concept would open up the MCU multiverse in a good way to bring the X-Men and the Fantastic Four over to our world without much difficulty. Or even better, we believe the next Earthbound Avengers movie should see our heroes be the ones to travel to an alternate dimension where they meet the already established Fantastic Four and the X-Men. We've seen enough battles take place on Earth, so it's about time Marvel does something a little different and sends our heroes to different dimensions. Marvel has continued to evolve with every phase it enters, and though Phase 3 was a conclusion of sorts to everything that came before, it also laid some exciting groundwork for what lies ahead. Whatever Phase 4 ends up being, we're sure we're going to love it 3000. What do you think Marvel's Phase 4 is going to consist of? Is it wise to leave the Fantastic Four and the X-Men until Phase 5? Or do you want to see them now? Go ahead and leave a comment below with your thoughts, and as always, be sure to subscribe to CBR for more awesome MCU content. Thanks for watching.